2022 edition of the European Union Prize for Literature. And as there may be a couple of people who don't know what the European Union Prize for Literature is, it's a prize which is given on a yearly basis, but every 3 years, because we have to cover 41 countries, because we have a very broad definition of Europe. So Europe goes all the way to Tunisia, Ukraine, Iceland. So this is a very encompassing Europe. And we've been organizing this prize since 2009. So we have over 150 authors who have been recognized both in their country and at European level. And since this year, this is the beginning of a new cycle. So as I mentioned, those cycles are of 3 years. And this new cycle has seen a slight change or a big change, depending on the way you see it, in the concept. Each country is nominating an author whom they believe is emerging and deserves to have a recognition on the international scenes, and those three do according to their countries. And then a European jury read translated abstract of their books, translated by literary translators, and then together with a synopsis, and they were pitched by either their publisher or someone from the nominating organization, and then the jury in complete secret met, discussed, and they chose 6 authors, and then they decided on one Grand Prix or winner or whatever you want. So unfortunately, you can count like me, and I have only on stage 3 of them. We are going to see short videos of the 3 missing ones. The missing ones, one has COVID. I think it happens these days that it's our colleague from Ireland, Tag, and he really wanted to be there, and he did a video for us. Tag is our first winner in Gaelic. We never had an author writing in Gaelic who was selected by his country, so it's quite an achievement. I think it's really important that we have all languages covered. Then we have also from Bosnia, we have Stradana, who couldn't be with us, and from Ukraine we have Eugenia. Eugenia is just had a baby a few months ago, and so she stayed with her baby. I would understand that too. So I suggest we start with the 3 little videos, and then we go into discussing with those who are there.
Hello from Belgrade. My name is Slađana Nina Perković, and I'm a writer of In the Ditch, the EUPL 2022 special mention. Well, at the beginning, I want to share my personal story. When I was in my early 20s, I left my country. I left Bosnia and Herzegovina, and I moved to France, to Paris. And in one point, I remember I wanted to buy a book as a gift for my French friend. So I was looking for a book of a very famous ex-Yugoslavian writer. He wrote in Serbo-Croatian. And I was 100% sure that this book is translated in French and that I'm going to find it easily. So I went to the biggest Parisian bookshop that exists, but the funny thing is the only thing I found was the very, very narrow bookshelf with books from all over Eastern Europe, writers from Eastern Europe, Central Europe, Russia, and so I never found my book. And that precise moment, I realized that the books from ex-Yugoslavia, from my country, are not translated, but also from all of these Central Eastern European countries, that they are put behind. And when I became writer, when I published my first book, the short stories, my French friends were all the time asking me when my book will be translated and published in France. and my answer was always never, and they couldn't understand it why. And so I think that translating books and reading books from other countries is a very important thing, especially for us in Europe, because I want to learn more about other cultures, and how am I supposed to do that if I can't find the books translated in my own language? Because are we going to learn about Georgia only from news, or can I get a good writer and learn more about their cultural values and what's going on in their country? I need books translated in my own language. I would love to read books in Georgian, but fortunately I can't. I don't speak the language. But so I think that we should promote in Europe more translating, the books to translate more books and to read more books in translation. This is the great way to find and to learn more about each other.
We'll send the applause to Eshe. I think I should say that Svetlana is probably when you will read, and you will get a copy of the anthology, because we are publishing an anthology with all of the 14 nominated countries. There's a couple of pages in your native languages, and then the translation. And I think it's also, I should have said it when we start, the idea of this prize is to create more circulation for all languages across Europe, and I think Svetlana said it very well. I think it's really important that we know about each other, and literature is a wonderful way to know about each other and to understand other countries. I should have also said that this is organized by two organizations in Brussels, the European and International Booksellers Federation and the Federation of European Publishers. Our daily job is a rather boring, well, to a certain extent boring, because we defend the interests of the book trade in terms of taxation, copyright, competition law, and stuff like that. So this is our Madeleine de Proust, is to be able to work on a literary prize. And Svetlana is the author who made the jury laugh the most when they were reading the extract. And I think that we have a second video. I don't know whether it's from Eugenia or Taik. Well, it's Taik.
Ireland, and I'm speaking to you this evening from Connemara, west of Ireland, where I live, not in Frankfurt, obviously, where I would love to be this evening, but unfortunately, last Saturday I tested positive for COVID and I couldn't travel, so I'm really, really disappointed. But I'm so glad that I can join you even in this way. I want to tell you quickly a few words about my novel, Madame Lazare, which was honoured this year by the European Union Prize for Literature, which was a moment of great joy for me. And it's a European story. It's the story of two women, a young woman named Levana in her mid-20s, who has been raised in a Jewish community in Paris, in quite a strict kind of Jewish background. And her grandmother, Hannah Lazare, the Madame Lazare of the title, who grew up in Estonia and who in her teens managed to escape from her native country as the Nazis were invading. She made her way to London, where she met her future husband, a young French Jewish soldier who had made his way to London to join the force of General de Gaulle. They both returned to Paris after the war, where they settled down and they lived the rest of their lives. And it was this couple who raised Levana when her own mother died when she was 6 years old. So Levana and Madame Lazare have quite a close but difficult relationship. And Madame Lazare, Hannah, has always been very, very closed and very secretive about her own background, claiming not to remember a word of the Estonian language, not to remember anything about her family of origin, not wanting to say anything about her past or her origin. But then as she comes to the end of her life, she becomes increasingly confused, and fragments of memory emerge from her mind that mystify her granddaughter, words in a language that Levana presumes is Estonian. She then discovers that the language the old woman is speaking is actually Irish. So this leads her on a kind of a road of discovery that crisscrosses Europe from Brussels to Paris to the Aran Islands in the very west of Ireland. And on that kind of frame of story, I suppose I have kind of hung ideas that have to do with memory and how memory is related to identity, and about language, and about religious belief, both Catholic and Jewish, about being Irish, about being European, about war, and about the connections of family. And it's a story which has resonated a lot, and hopefully it will find a readership across Europe. Already some translations are beginning to happen, and this is for me is hugely important as somebody who is writing in a minoritized language here in my native country in Ireland, because as you all know, Ireland is a predominantly Anglophone country, and our Anglophone literature is rightly well known and celebrated all throughout the world. And our parallel literature in the Irish language, in which I write, is more kind of, it's more pushed to the edge in a way. And so it's great that a book like this, can achieve the recognition that has been so kindly given me this year. It's also important, I think, in terms of our own European identity here in Ireland, because it's a bit tricky holding on to that European identity when we live in a country which is so tightly connected to the English-speaking world. A lot of Irish people would know an awful lot more about American politics, for example, than they would about German or Romanian politics. So it's true, I think, a story that we can maybe make those connections stronger through books and through films and through all those kind of connections that we can, reinforce our sense of European identity. So that's kind of very much part of my own personal cultural project, and I know that it's really central to the whole kind of idea of the European Union Prize of Literature. So that's another reason why I'm really, really happy to be involved. So I would like to thank the European Union Prize office in Brussels for all their support this year, and also Literature Ireland in Dublin, who have done so much this year to promote this book. I'm really happy to be part of it. Gur míle maith go ar fád is mór go an ónor seo agus tá mé fíorbródú gur tugu an taitheantas seo dom úrscéil Madame Lazare.
Well, I think that we can applaud him and wish him a speedy recovery from his COVID so he can be with us, because we are organizing a big cultural event in Brussels to celebrate all of the 14 authors. And as Tag was saying, the reason why the jury chose him is that they really thought he made them travel through Europe and through Europe identity. Last video, and then we'll go live. We have Eugenia from Ukraine.
Hi everyone. A friend of mine who is now living in Germany and avoids calling herself a Ukrainian refugee, who she really is, told me the other day, I should have read all those books by German writers I came across in my life, and then maybe I would be able to understand people living around me much better. I think she's right, because literature and fiction in particular often can explain us better about certain places, certain people or countries than, for example, integration courses. The world is becoming smaller and closer than ever. Even wars and pandemics cannot do anything about that. If earlier people learned new languages and read books by the writers from different countries, just maybe for fun, now We are doing that in order to understand better people around us. I mean our friends, our neighbors, or even our loved ones or children. The most important thing the literature, the translated literature, teaches us that we are all much more similar than we thought we were. On a human level, we share troubles, aspirations, and moments of happiness. Ukraine is now coming back to European family. Fighting for freedom has never been an easy task, and empires with blood on their hands and long history of cultural appropriation never die by themselves. They need to be destroyed, and that's what Ukraine is doing right now. In this regard, I would like to ask you to support Ukrainian publishers this year in Frankfurt, because they are doing an amazing job. They are even publishing new names amidst the war. At the same time, I would like to ask you to cease supporting directly or indirectly Russian publishers and Russian cultural industry in general, maybe even for the sake of the people living there. Thank you for this opportunity to talk to you this year, and I wish you a wonderful event, and I hope you discover lots of new names this year in Frankfurt. Thank you.
As Eugenia didn't really tell you about the book, what really touched the jury was the fact that she's talking about a shelter. It's a rather nostalgic novel. It's about sisters returning to their grandmother's house and reliving the memory and the intimacy of her life. But so I really recommend, I agree with Eugenia, there's a great Ukrainian scene in 4.0, and I would recommend you go and look at Ukrainian literature. All of the literature needs to be supported, but I think Ukrainian needs to be supported extra this year due to the circumstances. Okay, now I come to those who came to Frankfurt, even if some of them had a very long trip to come here, or very tedious trip, I think. So one thing that you all have in common, I read, at least I hope your biographies are right, is you're screenwriters. All does that, I mean, maybe you can start by presenting your book, etc., but then I would like you to hear all the screenwriting influences, the writer that you also. Who wants to start? Jacobo, you want to start?
I've been a screenwriter for a longer time than I've been a writer. I always thought I would be a writer, but I had kids very early in my life, and screenwriting pays the bills, and writing doesn't. And writing was more like of a dream. And once I was 40, I said, hey, I always thought I would be a writer, and I'm not a writer. I do screenwriting, which is work for pay, really. It's not something that you always feel very proud of. But, some things turn good, but not always.
Can you tell us a little bit about your book, the book that won the shortlist?
So the book that I won, I lived in Austin, Texas for some years, and I stumbled upon some letters from famous writer William Faulkner to his mistress, and these were hidden letters that nobody had ever published, and I was, greatly surprised that I saw these letters, and there's a bunch of them. I photographed them. I was a researcher at the Harry Ransom Center where they kept the letters, and I thought, I needed to write something not about Faulkner, because there's a lot that has been written about him, but about love, because he was very faithful in his unfaithfulness. He spent 30 years writing with the same woman, even though for the last 15 years he never saw her. But it, it really it gives like the journey and the arch of love, of like excitement at first, and then it's just like mechanics. We're going to meet in this hotel at this time of the year, and then there's silence, and then there's like the building of the memory. Like, you remember when we did that, when we did this, and I thought it was pretty neat how he pictures all the different stages of love. And so I wrote a letter about the person that finds the letters, and how he reflects upon himself and about his marriage, and he also has a mistress, and so it's a big reflection on all the different stages of love.
And the jury called your book funny and refreshing. So
Well, it was
is that the
funny
way
for-
you see it too?
Yeah, some people wrote to me saying that, hey, I finally got my divorce after reading your book. So I don't know if it was funny for everyone, but for some people it was, and for others it was quite tragic.
Well, I certainly hope that you can continue being a writer, because you sell a lot of books.
Thank you.
So now let's go to Belgium. Belgium is I'm Belgian, so I can say it. It's a special case because of being a very multilingual country. Every 6 years is the French-speaking community, and every 6 years is the Flemish community, because unfortunately there's, according to me, not sufficient dialogue between the two communities for people reading each other sufficiently. But your book is not about linguistics. Your book is about a fairly morbid story. And can you tell us a little bit more about?
Yes, I'll gladly tell you something about my novel. First of all, I want to quickly second what my colleagues already said. Screenwriting pays the bills, and novel writing is what we do for pleasure. But actually, with Trophy, I would say, because the novel is called Trophy, that's a bit an exception, because I would dare to say that Trophy is maybe a film in print. It's a very filmic novel, and I also imagined it as a film as I went along writing it. And also, in a way, I saw the plot of the novel before me in just 1 minute, and that's a rare present that you get as a writer. Usually it's a struggle that takes several years before you know where a book is going and how it will end. But here it was very clear for me from the beginning. I stumbled on Facebook upon a small advertisement for trophy hunting. And trophy hunting is a very strange phenomenon. It actually means that you pay lots of money to shoot an endangered animal, and that's what fascinated me, that this money is used in a protection program to make sure that this species of animal continues to live. So in fact, killing it is a way to guarantee its survival. And I found this idea so perverted that I directly wanted to write a story about it. So I must say it's a very un-European novel, as it is actually a novel with an American main character who goes to Africa to hunt an endangered black rhinoceros. And that's only the beginning of the misery.
And the jury thought it indeed rather sinister, however, a page-turner, and they really, at least the 40 pages in translation, and they were eager to read more of it.
It has actually been called the ultimate feel-bad book, which is what I intended it to be, because I wanted to leave the audience with a feeling of enormous unpleasantness as they are pulled into this wide gaze with which this American man looks at Africa as if it's laid out for his pleasure. And then the whole continent turns against him and sort of mirrors his post-colonial or neo-colonial, actually, vision on this continent.
So, publishers, if you want the ultimate feel-bad book, this is your author. Moving on, and Eva comes from Georgia, and the jury was touched by your book very much. You write about the war, and I think that also because, unfortunately, this is so much in our, I mean, it seems so far away for most of us Europeans for many years, but no, it's in the midst of our lives. They thought this was really the novel that should be rewarded the Grand Prix. So if you want to comment on living as a writer or a screenwriter, you can start with that too.
No, what I want to say is amazing story about trophy hunting. So it happens in Georgia. We have kind of eccentric millionaire guy who hunt down the hippo, and the head of the hippo is hanging in the residency of Georgian patriarchs. So, this one. Sorry, I missed the question.
Well, I would say the first little question is screenwriters versus writer.
The same here. Screenwriting pays the bills. But what it helped me with the dialogues, I think, and with the structure. There is an amazing book called Save the Cat by the Blake Snyder, and it teaches you some kind of Hollywood standard, because everything in screenwriting is standard. Come on, you get it.
Standardized.
So, and there is a chapter about how screenwriter needs whiteboards and boards to work with flow. So it was the main thing which I take from the screenwriting. I bought 3 different size boards, and it really helps. Just right.
And a little bit about your book?
Okay, the book is about ethnical Armenian family who fled from Karabakh war, which was held in late 80s, and they fled in Tbilisi, and in early 90s Tbilisi is another disaster with armed gangs in the streets, and the government was shut down. It was the coup in the country, and the government was shut down. So-called intellectuals and to live, and the book is about how they are living and fighting about to find their place in Tbilisi where they did not belong, let's say.
I'm going to quote the jury, what they said about your book. They say it's a modern, deeply engaged and empathic story. It's, last but not least, full of tongue-in-cheek humor. So obviously, apart from you, Gaia, all of the authors this year said some humor. Humor and entertainment. Such literature creates empathy and can also be used as a tool to better understand our world. I think it's quite a nice compliment from the jury.
Thanks to jury.
You take it?
Yeah, why not?
Can you tell us, the three of us, can you tell us a little bit where you stand in terms of translation? The prize specifically chooses, within the criteria of the prize, it's really important that the authors who are nominated have little translation to start with, because we don't want to give the prize to people who are already worldwide known. And so maybe we start with Gaia and then we go like that. Go ahead.
Well, actually, I had not been translated before because, as we know, Flanders is a or Belgium is a small country, and Dutch is a relatively small language. It's not so easy for us to get across the border. And EUPL has opened really an enormous amount of doors to me when it came to translations and international relationships. The French translation came out this September, and there is 6 others that will follow. So there is German coming, and then Serbian, Macedonian, Bulgarian, Hungarian, and Danish. And I just spoke to my publisher this afternoon, and he said that there are lots of other countries who are interested. So actually, I'm terribly happy that you opened this door. Thank you.
Well, congratulations, and I hope you get much more translation. Eva, you say 8 at the moment, but I think it's going to grow. Don't you worry.
There is a funny story. Last month we had a local UPL meeting in Tbilisi's writer's house, and some guy approached me, and he was quite rude. And he was like, I assume no one gave a dang about you until you won the UPL prize, and he used the F word, not the dang. And I was like, I don't know about that, but my book is translated in 4 different languages. We have a verbal agreement with Greek and Bulgarian publishers, and my French publisher is sitting next to us. So yeah, it helped a lot. It helped because same here, Georgia is a really small country with a unique language, which is a blessing and nightmare at the same time. So with the prize, a lot of doors are opening in front of me.
And I hope that many more are opening. And you, Jacobo?
I was translated into German, Italian, Dutch, Serbian, Bulgarian, and most interesting of all, to Farsi, which I don't know how. I mean, it's a story about unfaithfulness, and there's a lot of sex in it, and so yeah, I really hope it gets to Iran because it's a place where it should be. And then it traveled to Latin America too, which is, for a Spanish writer, people tend to think that Spanish is a huge language. There's actually 600 million people speak it, but it is very seldom that books from Spain actually go and travel over the Atlantic and get published on the other side of the Atlantic. And I did get an Argentinian edition and got to Mexico, so that makes me very happy too.
Well, it's great to hear, and I really encourage you to use all of the possibility of EUPL. We have modest but nevertheless existing funds to support you to travel to fairs, to meet with potential translators, etc. So I think you should use and abuse those possibility because it's there for you. Is it your first time in Frankfurt? All of you? Or you've been here before?
Second time for me.
And?
Same as first.
And the first time was how?
Sorry?
Or was the first time? I mean, or is it for an author to be in Frankfurt? Because this is a sort of business fair with limited cultural events. So what is... No?
At this time I have way more spotlight, so called, so yeah, definitely amazing thing. And a lot of business is going on, guys from White House and Kwanzaa Jobo is really helping to translate book, to promote it further.
So this is the year that Spain is the guest of honor. So I was on the plane today, and I knew half of the people in the plane, and I guess that doesn't happen all the time. But there's a lot of Spanish writers wondering what they're doing here today. So yeah.
Okay, so you're lucky. So you don't feel like a lonely soul.
I'm not a lonely soul. I've met a lot of people here.
Okay. And you, Gaia?
Well, I think indeed it makes a lot of difference in which context you come to Frankfurt as an author. Belgium has had a nice year of Gastlandship also, where for writers it was very pleasant to be here because we were very well taken care of by Flanders Literature. It's now very pleasant because we come on invitation of EUPL, but as a single author in Frankfurt, especially in the beginning of your career, I think it's very easy to get lost. And it becomes enormously fun when now, I've been writing now for over 10 years, so you know people who are publishers, you know people who work in the literature funds, you know translators, and then it's a nice and pleasant moment to see all these people, to, for example, speak with people who will now translate my novel and to talk about it and to see each other in real, which is so much more pleasant than all these Zoom and Teams meetings that we've been having for the last years.
So I can already announce that you will meet all of your, if COVID or things like that don't happen, but your 11 other colleagues in Brussels for a cultural event where we will have the chance to listen to you also in your mother tongue or native language. Oh, I don't know how you say it. Can you say mother tongue? I don't know these days, but maybe we can close by asking you if you have future projects as maybe not as screenwriters, but as writers. Eva, you want to start?
Like 1 hour ago, I received the email from the Baltic Center. They approved my application for residency there, and hope so. I will finish the novel in November, because I already, the idea is to write 100-page, one paragraph, so I already written 69, and only 31 pages are left, and hope I will finish it this year.
So in November?
Yes.
So you will talk to us about it when you come in December to Brussels?
Oh, I will do my best.
Okay. So this is a bet between us. Okay. Jacobo?
So writing pays so little that you cannot really afford to have just like one project, I guess. I wish I could, and I already made the biggest mistake a writer can do, which is asking for an advancement from your publisher. And I know he's around here. I'm just like hiding away in every corner. But I already had the money and now I have to deliver. But yeah, I have a couple of series that I'm writing on my next novel, and I work on the radio, and I just like do a lot of things just to have a large family. I had a lot of kids, so I gotta pay a lot of bills.
Okay.
I can't say no to anything. I just have to sleep less and I can work more.
And you?
Well, I don't have any children, so that's the lucky thing, I would say. But on the other hand, I'm always hungry for several projects and combinations of projects. I also write for opera, which is a rare hobby, but I found out that no one did it, so that it was a nice hole in the market that I could fill. So I have an opera production that's coming up and that we will also tour. I promised my publisher that I would somewhere next year make a first version of a youth novel, and there is also a new adult novel waiting. And we recently published with 11 female writers from Belgium and Holland a small manifesto about the glass ceiling in literature and about sexism in literature. And apparently there is quite a lot of interest in that and quite a lot of attention for the team. So we're now doing a huge tour where we speak everywhere about this topic. And that's mostly what will take up my time, I think, for the rest of this year. And that's very exciting in a way. There's, and I had hoped for it from the beginning, many film producers interested in Trophy. So let's see what happens there. Then maybe I can combine the script writing with the literature, which would, of course, be really nice.
Well, does anyone has a question or something, or do you want to add something that we haven't raised? I mean, is there anything you want to add, or I think we're running pretty much out of time, but I'm really happy that I've had the chance to briefly meet you, and I'm looking forward to read you all. I think my Spanish is not quite good enough, but I know that you are both in French, so that's fine with me. I really, really encourage you to read European authors. There's a tendency in most of European countries to translate mainly from Anglo-Saxon authors. And obviously there are wonderful Anglo-Saxon authors and we should read them too. But reading European authors, this is, first of all, it's the nicest way to travel. I always try to read an author from a country that I have to visit because I feel like I've visited a little bit before I even arrive in the country. And I think we should all applaud all three authors and read them and take this. So yeah, I should have said that also before. You see, this is not my main job, doing this, but we are publishing an anthology. There are some copies there, and you can take them and you can read a little bit of those 3 authors and the 11 others. And you can find, if you're a publisher, we have a longer translation available for you, so you can look at it and assess whether it goes into your catalog. And we have a little gadget. It's a little EcoPod, and it's no, I'm a little bit embarrassed saying that after what you said about writers and screenwriters, but there's seeds in it, and if you water it, it grows. And I was thinking it's a little bit like authors and being published and being translated, and makes all of us grow. So thank you very much, and have a nice evening.